Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I am the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique, and today we are going to be doing a peekaboo tutorial with a really cute calico colored base and a leopard print design. I think it's super cute. I think it's so summer. I had gotten a lot of requests to teach this technique with this particular design here. And unfortunately, I can't show you guys exactly how to do that one because that particular image is no longer available. So I thought I would change it up a little bit and just show you guys the technique with the look that I'm going to show you in this video. So I hope that all makes sense. And of course, you guys can find links down below to all the products that are used in this video, including the leopard print file that we're using for this design. So check that out. Also, while you're down in the description box, check the link for our new Flynn Sisters community Facebook group. That is a great place to share pictures of your work and things that you've learned in my tutorials. Also, if you want to connect with me, ask me questions, ask members of the community some questions, just a place to get some extra help. So definitely check that out, as well as links to the Peachy Olive Facebook group. If you guys want to get updates on restocks, updates on when Peachy palettes are released, if you want to see what glitter colors look like what on different cups and all of that, definitely join the Peachy Olive Facebook group. All right, so I think that's enough. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're gonna start with a fully prepped and sanded cup as usual. This one is a 30-ounce traditional from Craft Haven. And the colors I used to spray paint it was this flat white, which I used as a primer, and then Montana Cans Infra Yellow, Infra Green, Infra Violet, and Rust-Oleum 2x Satin Seaside Blue. And I just kind of sprayed it in kind of a scattered swirl, I guess you would call it, or like a calico swirl. It's sort of similar to how you would spray paint the base colors to a gypsy leopard, just a little more staggered and like short dashes of color. All right, and I want to make sure that my cup is warm to the touch, and I'm going to apply less than 1 milliliter of epoxy for our glitter. The reason you want your cup warm is it's going to help you to apply that epoxy, and I usually get it warm by putting it in front of a small space heater for just a few minutes. Next, I'm going to start putting on my glitter using my spray painted colors as like a roadmap for where I'm going to sprinkle the glitter. And for your first go round of color, you're just going to do a really light sprinkling. This is how I do all my glittering when I'm using multiple colors. Is I just start out with a really light dusting of color to establish where my colors will go, and then we'll go around again with all the colors and just keep building and blending until we get full coverage. All right, so after we've got everything covered really well, I'm gonna let my glitter dry for about 2 to 3 hours, and then I'll tap off all the excess glitter, and then you'll spray it to seal it with a clear spray paint. I use Rust-Oleum 2x clear gloss spray sealer. And then you're gonna want to coat it with a pretty generous layer of epoxy. Let that dry for 4 to 6 hours, and then you'll put on your second coat of epoxy immediately after, and let that second coat dry for 8 hours. And then I'm going to go into the sanding. For this kind of design with the Peekaboo, you really want to make sure that you get this sanded down really well. If you find that your layers here are really rough still, I would just go into a third coat of epoxy, because you really want to make sure everything is smooth before you do the stenciling and spray paint, because you do not want to have to do any sanding after you do the spray painted section, because you risk possibly sanding through that spray paint later, which you don't want. You're going to notice that I sand down that bottom rim like really hard and all the way down until I expose the stainless steel. I would never normally do this, except with this one you're not going to see it because we're going to be painting over it. So it's okay if you sand down that far. Actually, it's going to make things easier in the long run for this type of design, so don't worry if you do that, because like I said, there's going to be paint over it. You're not going to see it. I do like to sand a small line of stainless steel along the top rim, and that is where I establish the seal with my final coats of epoxy. All right, so we are going to work on the file that we're going to use for our stenciling for this Peekaboo design. And I'm going to show you guys how to also create the offset for the Peekaboo design. So I'm just going to get my Cricut software open because we're going to be using that. And then I'm also going to be using Inkscape to do this. Now I've already done a offset tutorial, or like how to offset using Inkscape. This one will be a little bit different. So we're going to be doing leopard spots all the way around this cup. So I have a really cute leopard print file that I'm going to share with you guys. You guys can purchase this file with commercial license using the link down in the description box. All right, so I've got my file selected here. It is a PNG image. So we're just going to load that in. I'm going to select the image. I'm going to select path, and then we're going to hit trace bitmap. On this one I have the threshold set to 45, and then we're just going to hit OK. And then we're going to go to path, and then we're going to hit outset. And then I'm gonna hit path, outset again. And then if you guys want to see like how much it has been offsetted, you're gonna go down over here to fill, and you're gonna make sure that fill is empty and that the stroke paint is selected here. So now you can see the outline that we've made, and you can see how thick that outline is. So I think I'm gonna go and hit outset one more time. I think I like that. If you guys make it too thick and you want to make it thinner, you would just go back to path and hit inset. So inset goes inside, outset will go outside, okay? So once I've got the thickness that I like for my offset, we're just going to make sure that it's selected, and then I'm going to go back to fill. I'm going to make sure that my fill is solid. So if you click on that offset that we created and like drag it over, you'll see the offset layer is on top and then the original file is on the bottom. So we just want to have this outset layer selected here, and we're gonna go to export as. I'm gonna just save it to my desktop. I'll just put like Leopard path. I've already have this saved, but I'm just showing you guys. And then we'll go export, okay? So once we've got that saved to our desktop, we're gonna go into Cricut and we're gonna upload both the original image and then the offset image, okay? So we're gonna select those both. And then I'm gonna size them appropriately. They're gonna come in really big. For now, I'm just gonna size them both at 9 inches just so they're a little easier to work with. If you guys hear my cat in the background, I'm sorry, she's trying to get into the garage. So I'm just gonna change the color of this, and I'm gonna send the offset layer to the back, and then I'm just going to move the original file and resize it over the top and make sure that I have it totally centered. So I got my offset right, everything looks good. So I'm just gonna select both, and we're going to resize this to fit our cup. So now I already know that the dimensions on my cup are about 11 inches around and about 9 inches long. And so that is the size that I want to size both the offset and the original leopard print. Okay, so we're gonna have both selected, and I'm gonna say 11. Okay, so once we've got that sized right at the 9 by 11, you want to make sure that it doesn't look like distorted or anything when you resized it. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this out. Now for this particular design, I'm also going to put Savage on it. So I've already created the PNG for that earlier. I made that in the Over app. So we're just gonna save this really quick. And I also already created the offset for it as well. So we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so got these two now that I'm dealing with. Again, I'm gonna make this layer pink. Oops. Send the offset layer to the back, and then make sure I get everything centered. All right, and then I'm gonna size this at, think about like 3.6-ish wide, 3.6 wide by 1.3 tall. So I think that'll look good, you know, along the front. Okay, and so we're going to slice the offset. So you're gonna have both images selected, both the regular layer and the offset layer, and then you're gonna slice it, okay? So I have like just the offset here, and then I have just the image here. We're gonna delete what was in the center because we don't need it. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with this leopard print. Select both the top and bottom layer as they're centered and everything, and then you're gonna slice it. Okay, delete what you don't need. Okay, so this black one is what we're going to apply to the cup to do our peekaboo, and then the pink one is what we're gonna use in the offset later on, okay? So I am going to show you how I apply these in the next step. All right, so we got all our vinyl cut, and I am going to put the wording on first. If you guys are doing this type of design with the spots plus like a name decal or something, you're going to want to put the name decal on first. That way you know where to not put the spots. And you can use any type of vinyl for this part. If you want to use Oracal 631 or Oracal 651, in my experience, it hasn't really made a difference when I go to remove the vinyl later on after we do our stenciling. So I'm just laying down the decal like I normally would. You want to make sure this is really straight because you're not going to get the opportunity to fix it later because we are going to be painting over this. All right, and now I'm going to go into the spots. Now, I do like to lay these spots by hand. I just personally think it's easier. But keep in mind that we are going to be offsetting these spots later with the outline that we had created. So that's going to be really difficult to do if we can't find what outline belongs to what spot, if that makes sense. So when you're placing these spots, try to keep a mental note of how you're doing it. I thought it was easy to kind of place these spots row by row so that I could easily reference, like the pattern before I cut it and find where, what outline belonged to what spot later on when I go to do the offset. Okay, so after I get all the spots placed, I'm going to spray paint this with 2 coats of white matte spray paint. I'm going to let that dry pretty well, at least until it's no longer tacky. And then I'll go in with my little dental pick tool or whatever kind of weeding tool that you like to use and just really carefully remove those decals. I've got my cup on a rack, like it's a extra rack that we have around the house. If you guys want to know how to make one of these racks, I will link that video here in this tutorial. But anyway, you're just going to carefully remove all those little decals. Yes, this is time consuming. Yes, it's cumbersome, but it's not that bad. You just really want to make sure that you're not touching that paint with your fingers because I find like this white matte spray paint, it's easy to kind of mess it up or smudge something. I don't know. Anyway, just be really careful. And if you accidentally scratch some of the paint with your tool, which I did a couple times in this project, you can fix it by just coloring over that scratch with a white acrylic marker. So if you guys have the Arteza acrylic markers, those are perfect for this. If you make a little mess up, it's no big deal. You just color over it with some of that white paint pen like I'm doing right here. All right, so after I've got all of those removed, I'm gonna go into a layer of epoxy. I've got about 20 milliliters of epoxy here, and I'm going to mix a small amount of Brite glitter from PG Olive Glitters. You guys could use any kind of extra fine translucent glitter, or if you have like a, you know, like a microfine silver additive glitter or something, whatever you want to put in here, or you could just completely leave it out. But you do not want to add too much. So really pay attention to the amount that I added there. It was just a very small amount. And you don't want to use a glitter for this step that could possibly change the sparkle and color of the glitter that you have underneath, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't want to use something that could possibly dull those rainbow glitter colors that I have underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to spread this epoxy coat on like I normally would. And this one is so sparkly. It looks really pretty with these colors that I already have on there, and it doesn't affect the colors. This particular glitter doesn't affect the colors that I already have at all, which is part of the reason why I like it so much. All right, so now for the hard part. That epoxy layer that we just did, it has been drying for at least 8 hours before we move on to this step. When I am offsetting a peekaboo and I'm doing letters, I prefer to do stuff that I can do like one letter at a time. When I first did this, I did it with the most complicated file I could have tried to offset on a peekaboo, and it was really, really hard because I had to try and get that whole image outlined perfectly without any kind of like, yeah, it was just really hard. So anyway, that's why I chose kind of a really simple design for this particular one, and I'm just doing one letter at a time. If you want to just pick up one letter at a time with your transfer tape, or however you want to do that, it's really going to make your life a lot easier. So, I mean, you definitely could do like a large script font or whatever. I would just warn you that it's going to be a lot more difficult than if you were to do something a little simpler that you can do one letter at a time with. You could also use wax paper underneath your decal, so it'll help you kind of position it before you commit to laying it down on the cup. But I have kind of bad eyesight, so I can't see through parchment paper or wax paper, so I kind of just have to eyeball it and go for it. Yeah. And then for the leopard print offset, we cut the whole thing, and then I weeded out those leopard spots and saved them to an empty sheet of, you know, vinyl backing that I had around. And that way I wasn't wasting all those cute spots. And you'll notice that your offset that you created, a lot of those spot outlines are connected. Now, obviously, we're not going to transfer this whole spot pattern in one. So if they're connected, what we did was you just use like an X-Acto knife and kind of cut out around the spots as you need them, if that makes sense. Like, you'll see what I mean in the video. It's kind of hard to explain it, but like in some of those places, those spot outlines are connected to another spot outline, and I just separated them with my craft knife. Okay, and then I lifted them one by one and tried to find the spot that they matched. Again, because we placed those spots when we were doing the stenciling row by row, it made it a little easier for me to find what outline matched what spot. You'll also notice that I'm not outlining every single spot, because this process, just doing a select amount of the spots, took me probably a good hour and a half total. So I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that this was super easy and I just breezed right through it, because it was hard and I did mess up a few times and had to take the vinyl off. So yeah, it is what it is. It's not easy. There's no like magic hack to do this. If you have some magic hack, let me know. But yeah, it was a challenge. All right, so after we got all of our spot outlines applied, we're done. Just kidding. We're gonna seal the vinyl first before we put our final layers of epoxy on. I just like to seal metallic vinyl because it tends to bubble or lift under epoxy, and after all that hard work, that's the last thing I want to happen. I like to use Counterculture's quick coat for that. It's just a water-based urethane sealer. You could use whatever you'd like to seal it, though. If you want to use a spray sealer or Mod Podge or whatever, totally fine. After that dries, I will put the final coats of epoxy on this and we're done. So if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, let me know what you thought in the comments. Make sure to give this video a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and hit that bell button so you don't miss a new tutorial. We do upload every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks for watching. See you soon. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.